you are. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Ooh, my face is really big.
Your face looks really big. Like, that's funny. Like, I don't think your face looks really big.
Okay,
I think you look super prepared. That's what I think. Super prepared. Okay, so
Joe, you didn't miss anything, Natalie. Joe was just struggling with technology as usual.
Oh, okay.
Because guess what? StreamYard is not Joe proof. As people made fun of me yesterday at our AI event. Ha ha ha, make fun of me. It's okay. It's really okay. I have thick skin. Okay, so my name is Joe Harford. I'm joined by my sister Angie Singer Keating and one of our newest friends who we would classify as smarticle, Natalie Suarez, who also has her microphone muted, but that's okay because she's wondering, how do I press these buttons and change these
That
things?
is what happens when your flight gets you in at 3 a.m.
I wondered about you because we had incredible storms here last night, and I thought, oh, I hope Natalie and Eli and Michael, I hope they all got home okay.
Yeah, I did. It just
very
early this morning.
We had Karen and I have a friend who lives in Houston. I'm not exactly sure why he was in PA, but he was at the Harrisburg airport, and I think he was flying out. You flew out at 6, Natalie?
Yes.
He was flying out later, and apparently, it all broke loose, and people were late, and blah blah blah. Anyway,
well, I made it to Atlanta.
Okay,
I was in Atlanta for a really long time.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
So, Natalie, what we normally do is we get on and we talk about a wide variety of topics. Typically, Angie makes a lot of fun of me because I really don't know anything about technology, and that's okay. But really, it's about just trying to make it just chill and have fun, because I think people get way too worked up with podcasts and and Angie's all about authenticity. That's like when she likes when I screw up technology. And now she's got these really crazy eyes. You see her eyes, she's like this. I don't know. It's like she forgot to take her meds this morning. I don't know. But, it's about having fun, right? And so, they're there. Now they're blinking. Now there's really technology issues. There must be thunderstorms. Anyway, okay. So, so we had a good event yesterday. I was really happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I don't know how to ask this question. Were there questions that you were expecting to get from people that you didn't?
Our audience was great. They were so engaged.
They were.
I like the questions that stumped us. Maybe you want to go back and do some more research,
Okay.
The whole blockchain. That's an interesting perspective.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would have done differently with your presentations?
Gonna make me think after only getting a few hours of sleep, huh?
Oh yeah, it's all about the pressure. It's all about the pressure. It's like the end of the quarter.
Are we doing? I would assume we're going to do some kind of post-event survey.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, I can't think of a single thing that Natalie could have done better. But I always look to the survey results after we do any kind of speaking that, tell us things that, we can't see. I'm sure there's some confirmation bias in there because I thought it was an amazing, fantastic event. I could not believe how engaged that audience was. Yeah. They don't even know each other. We had attendees from all industries, company sizes, government, everything. Most of them never, ever met each other before. And they, not only during the presentations, but especially during the incident response over lunch, they really got into it. They all just knew each other. And, so I hope our attendees, on top of getting some good information, I hope they also got a chance to do some really good networking. That maybe is the one thing I would have done differently, is maybe at the very beginning, I would have said, turn to the person on your right and introduce yourself and where you're from, kind of thing, just to help them network a little bit better. But that's probably the only thing I can think of until I see survey results.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
Should
I
have been
think
a
that,
little icebreaker.
yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, though, that you made a comment, Angie, about, and so did you, Natalie, about the level of engagement, and I couldn't agree more. I think the video of the day will prove that out. So there's three things that lead to engagement when you're doing presentations, right? Number one, it's content, and I'm not saying this because the two of you are on here with me, but the content was relevant, and you were not talking at people. I think we've all been to presentations where we are being talked at. You were really speaking with people. So content is number one. Number two, it's about the people that are in the room that are sharing that information. And so one of the things that I've often seen, whether at ConnectWise events or Kaseya events or whomever, is there is a stark difference between male and female presenters. That has been my experience for a very long time, especially within technology. And I think that the third thing is the room itself. Did people feel overwhelmed by a large group? No, they did not. I think the stage was set where it was very easy to move around in the room. It was, if you want to call it, a safe place or what have you. But at the end of the day, it was those three things really lead to that level of engagement. And obviously there was a lot of interest because, again, Angie and I have a phone call. It's either today or tomorrow with a consultant to talk about AI in our environment. And based on the outcome of that phone call, we either are or are not going to go forward with that engagement. And a lot of people say, well, you should be more open-minded about AI. And I've said this to you, and I think I said this to you, Natalie. I am not the technologist in the organization. So if I come to Angie and I'm like, hey, I think this is really cool, and she vets it, and she's like, listen, it's either not ready for prime time or it's going to create some level of aggravation for us from a security perspective, then I trust her enough to simply back away and say, okay, So what are the things that you really, I don't know that we talked about this specifically yesterday, but what really want people, if they were to rewatch the presentation, or just kind of reflect upon it, a couple days after, what are the things you really want people to get out of it? What do you want them to take away?
Well, for me, I think it's a couple things. One, I have a much more optimistic view of AI. I think it's really going to do a lot for us as far as analytics. It's going to, really have us as businesses be able to figure out what we're doing right for our clients and what we aren't doing right. And by gauging that sentiment and doing data analytics. And then the other thing is I really enjoyed the incident response workshop that we did. I liked the way we did it. That was a little bit different. Kind of giving them a teaser of what they could get out of it. And I was so excited that, I got examples of what we would do differently in all three: people, process, and tech. I thought that was really cool.
Angie?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I just look back, though, on the past 20 years at all the damage that has been done with social media to our society, to our families, all of the ways that explosion, that evolution of technology has really, really harmed our civilization. You could even make the argument when you look at things like teen suicides attributed to social media. Real human harm came from that. And it's still coming from that. We're still trying to figure it out, and when you read studies of, the couple school districts, it's kind of still early, but the success that they're having banning cell phones out of schools. My concern about AI is, once again, we're full speed ahead and we are not taking a pause to ask questions, to, like I said in our presentation yesterday, just because we can, does that mean we should?
Probably.
And yeah. And so, Yes, I love everything that I get to do with AI. I mean, I feel it really makes me feel on some level like I have a superpower right
Mhm.
now. It reminds me of 20 years ago when I knew how to Google and
Mhm.
other people didn't. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's awesome. But I also know we have a 20-year history. History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And I see a whole lot of rhyming. What makes me most nervous about that rhyming is that the speed of the harm is going to be exponentially faster. The speed of the good will be exponentially faster, but the speed of the unintended harm that we can't even begin to foresee right now, that's also going to be exponentially greater. And it tends to be true in civilization and societies that those who are harmed the most tend to be the most weak, vulnerable, and marginalized. And it really saddens me if we turn around and we do that all over again now with the AI revolution, the way we did with the first.com revolution and bubble, and then the social media revolution and bubble. And here we are today. So I
Well,
don't mean to be downer, but I just have
you're always a
serious.
wet blanket. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I went into business with you, because as a salesperson, I'm very optimistic and I need somebody to depress me so I don't want to be able to make my quarterly goals. Anyway, with all of that said, I think, if you have medication anywhere close by, maybe you want to open it up right now and take a couple hits. Oh my God. Anyway, okay, so let's do something fun. Ah, uh, okay. So I would say that I believe that the two of you, Natalie Suarez and Angie Singer Keating, I would categorize as smarticle. That's a defined word in technology, by the way. Look it up.
Okay.
And that you have big brains, you are practical, and you are thoughtful. That's what it means to be smarticle. Okay, so I'm a business owner. I'm going to lay it out for you. I'm a CEO of a large healthcare system somewhere in the United States. We have 15,000 employees. We have 4 campuses that we're currently responsible for supporting. Um, we have annual risk assessments that are performed by really great organizations. We schedule biannual penetration tests and all of those kind of things. And so somebody came back from a conference and they said, "Oh my gosh," they were from the marketing department. And then somebody actually came back from the IT department, and somebody came back from some other damn department. And they said, this artificial intelligence thing is really cool. Okay. Now we're sitting in a boardroom together. And as a CEO, what's your advice to me? Because I've got people that are saying to me that, I can deal with workforce issues because I can be more efficient. I'm being told that it's going to do really great things from a research perspective in healthcare. I'm being told that it's going to be able to revolutionize the way that we deliver healthcare within our health system. And obviously, we're very competitive in our space. So from those two people, you two people are sitting in a boardroom now with me as a CEO. What's the advice for me? What should I be doing?
Well, Natalie just messaged that she's lost sound briefly, so I'll take that as she's working through.
Whoa. See, this is authentic. She's lost sound. So she's like, what is he saying? What's going on? And she looks very intent on getting back her sound. So
Yeah,
we'll let
I'm
you talk.
sure she'll.
Oh, now she's gone. Now she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Wow.
No, it's like I'm sure she's doing the fundamental task of IT, which is when it doesn't work, restart. And I'm sure she'll be back. I think the most important thing is that, folks, I always, everything comes back to risk management. Everything comes back to risk management. So if I were a CEO of any type of organization and I have folks coming to me wanting to use AI in different capacities, first listen, then assess the actual, remember the 4 pillars, the competence, the transparency, the accountability, like remember that, and then just start the conversations and don't rush headlong into anything. One of the biggest areas where we make mistakes in organizations is that thing called FOMO, fear of missing out. And so again, it always harkens back to risk management, risk tolerance, risk analysis, and then putting the plan in action and then following through on that plan. So that would be my biggest recommendation to any executive level decision makers that are either feeling the pressure themselves through their staff or have that same, just like you did, Joe, went to a conference and they want to run headlong with it because of all of the benefits that they can possibly reap. What was your advice to C-level folks that are having pressure to jump into AI headfirst, Natalie?
My same advice I give for anything: take a minute and slow down. Slow down, and you need to really weigh the pros and cons, and not just in your head. You need to record them and figure out, do the pros outweigh the cons? And, are we, like you said, are we being ethical, right? We need to consider the ethics behind it. What's our return on investment? Does it make sense from a business perspective and a risk perspective?
Yeah. Well, and I think also when we talk about healthcare specifically,
Oh yeah.
First do no harm. I mean, good heavens, from everything from the business model to healthcare to the technology strides, everything. If that could be the fundamental foundation, that would solve so many problems if we could get back to that precept of decision making in the business of healthcare.
Yes.
with that precept in mind.
So Angie, you said something that I have, and maybe you've said it before and I wasn't paying attention because I do have the attention span of a gnat. FOMO, fear of missing out. That is a very, it's an interesting acronym, but I think more importantly, it's a pretty interesting phenomenon if you think about it. You're talking about, a level of emotion, fear of missing out, where people oh my God, the other healthcare system down the road's going to be there faster before us. Okay, so you can have all the logic you want, and maybe neither one of you can answer this question. I don't know. How do you manage your way through? And maybe it's not even about AI. It's something else in your career. I don't know. But how do you manage your way around fear of missing out? That's an emotional trigger for somebody, right? So what do you do about that, Natalie? Like, how do you? I mean, you've been off the porch and around the block. This is not your first rodeo. What do you do in that situation? That's because that's a tough place to be.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my personality or what, but I don't really have a fear of missing out. I don't want to be, even though technology is cool and I want to play with it, I'm very cognizant that if you just jump in head first to something new like AI, I don't want to be like, I want to read about it, I want to play with it, but I don't want to do anything real with it right away, So I want to see what happens, what people do with it. I don't want to jump in head first. I like to. I don't do well with high pressure sales. Let's put it that way. I always want to stop and think about it.
Okay. So then, the follow on to that is, okay, so that's FOMO from your perspective and how you deal with things. Okay. Now you are a technology practitioner, a cyber subject matter expert, and you are now you're drawn into a situation either with your current employer or whomever, and you have to sit down with somebody who has fear of missing out going on in their own decision-making process, male or female. We can have a separate and distinct conversation about the gender, but how do you as a professional get people to kind of step back?
For me, I think it's actually taking a moment, really, and like I said, writing down those pros and cons. right? We need to make it a less remove ourselves emotionally. Shouldn't be an emotional decision. When you're making an emotional decision like FOMO, you have a greater chance of making a mistake and the consequences are much greater. So let's have a discussion. Let's sit down. Let's whiteboard. I'm going to age myself. Let's whiteboard it out, right? And actually write down, what are you afraid of missing out on? How is this going to hurt you if you jump in head first? And make it more of a logical decision.
Gotcha.
Well, and I think Natalie is on this topic, maybe is more optimistic than I am. I believe that
Natalie is just more optimistic overall, because I think you really I think you're like Arnold Schwarzenegger is sitting right behind you, or you're inside Skynet. I have no idea, but
no, you and Joe, you and I talk about this all the time. Mm-hmm. The older I get, the more I am very much anti-private equity. I am having serious issues over what stage of capitalism we might be in. You and I have talked about it very often. We could be way richer. Our business could be way bigger if we made decisions like rational, ruthless, heartless business people whose sole goal was to grow this thing 10x, exit, and then start our, So my point is that I don't believe our society today is built to let people take that breath. It is always bigger. It's got to be more. It's got to be more profit to the bottom line, more value for the shareholders. And that drive, I believe, is almost impossible to fight and to negate. And that is the fear of missing out. My company will not have the biggest earnings in my sector if I don't charge full speed ahead. Remember the whole ethos of, the early aughts, the early 2000s, move fast and break things. Well, guess what? We did that. People died. Children have been harmed. That was a really stupid freaking idea that we embraced and we've charged full speed ahead on through technology. And here we are today. And that is what I believe when Natalie says we sit down and we analyze. Yes, thinking and analyzing and talking about the what ifs is hard work. It's complicated. Doing is easy. And everybody today just wants to do. Oh, that's easy. It's black and white. Do it. And that whole process of SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Nobody wants to do that hard work.
Let me
Oh, sure.
Let me interrupt my sister and say that she is not responsible for going out and recruiting people to participate. So you'll have to, her doom and gloom perspective. And I tease her, obviously. I mean, I get it. So, I would simply say this from my perspective. AI, capitalism, whatever you want to call it. I think it comes down to we have a responsibility knowing what we know now, having from, oh my gosh, the world's going to get into 1999. Not only was it a cool song by Prince. So yes, I'm aging myself and I am 57. Like we have a responsibility, right? I mean, that's why we said yesterday to the group of people, I don't care whether or not you have an agreement with Reclamere or not. If you want our help and something's going really shady with you, reach out and we'll figure out the numbers. We regularly, because we believe in it, Angie spends time with our Evolve peer group members to help them because you're supposed to. So I think that there is a way for us to kind of slow things down. Sure, you're going to have bad actors no matter what. I don't care what generation you're in. I don't care what the topic is. I don't care what continent you're on. You're going to have bad actors. There's always a percentage of just bad people. Okay. Mm-hmm. But knowing what we know now, we should be able to counter some of that. So let me ask, because oh my gosh, hold on a minute. You got to be kidding me.
What happened now?
What's going on? So I was going to say,
I get to see the dashboard, in regard to people's comments.
Oh no,
And
what did I do? Did I
that
did I
didn't do
wake
anything.
up?
No, you didn't
Don't
wake
tell
up
me.
the evil monster. You
Don't
didn't
tell
wake
me.
up the
I'm
evil
not.
monster.
No, I am not. See, that's why I can never be a social media influencer. Or a celebrity. I just am not built to withstand the withering criticism and the trolls.
Oh no,
Like
no, no,
I'm
no!
not.
It's not withering. It's not withering criticism.
Oh,
There,
okay. Because I
people are
can't see
wondering
what
why we've gone off topic. So, but that's okay. So the question is this. Okay, so we're going to roll into the second half of the year. Things are going pretty well with the economy. You can argue yes or no, whatever the case may be. So, what is and I'm going to say it. The commenter didn't say it. You don't get to say, "Oh, just slow down and think about it." Like really put on your brain caps or your thinking caps or whatever. I don't know. Mr. Rogers used to say that, or somebody, maybe Sesame Street. I don't know. What is the one super duper cool thing, idea, or what have you, that you want people to really do in their business or their personal life as it pertains to artificial intelligence? Like, what's that one thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to get this out there?
I am a data nerd. I want businesses to take advantage of the analytical power of AI to really understand their clients. But I also, Joe, I'm going to take this moment to step back a minute. I think it's really funny that Angie is being so quote unquote pessimistic when you guys are the perfect example of what I'm talking about doing the right thing
What do you
and
mean by
giving
that,
back.
Natalie?
Well, exactly what you said to the people in the audience. Don't, if you're not our client, don't worry about it. If you have an issue and you need someone to step in, we'll talk about it. We're not going to come and go, no, here's the invoice first.
Right.
How you work with your Evolve peer group. Evolve's all about giving back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you
Yeah.
guys are giving back to people who technically could be your competition, right?
Sure, they
Because
could
we're
be.
in a global society now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether they're in your market or not.
Oh, sure.
You guys, right? You guys are a great example of how of doing the right thing. And I think there are I don't know what you want to call it, if you want to call it karma or what you want to call it, but there are consequences for doing the right thing and consequences for doing the bad thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I think
So
your point about being a data nerd, I think, is kind of interesting because Angie and I have had this conversation as well. It's not just about lead generation, but it's also, I think, being able to ask the question and understanding, okay, why is our agreement retention rate as high as it is? Why do people refer business to us? Why is I mean, all of those kind of things are interesting to me, not just simply from a growing the business perspective, but also being just able to understand that human dynamic. Like, why did people? I mean, I know why people want to come to presentations like what we put on, but why? What's the carryover? Like, what's the decision point that got them to do X? I think that's kind of interesting. Angie and I have been very fortunate. I would say from 2014 on, then again in 2016, and I think again in 2020, which was it was reinforced with us that says, listen, if you just continue to work at this thing and you do it in a planned way and you're disciplined and you make good decisions for the people around you, things are going to turn out okay. And I will speak for her when I say we live a really great life. And we've, we have done, or at least tried to do, the right thing on a regular basis. And that's not always easy. That is definitely not always easy.
no.
Well, and
So
it's
Angie,
not always easy being that business partner either, because
I know it's very hard being me.
I don't think that's what she was saying.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I remember coming to you and our former business partner, I believe in 2013, and I had wanted to find out what is the rate of income in our county that an employee made that would qualify them for food stamps and public housing. And we had employees that were under that threshold. And I said, this is immoral. It is immoral as business owners that we have people working for us who qualify for food stamps and housing assistance. That's immoral. And, you know, your response and our former business response was, well, we can't survive. We're a business, and, you know, we pay what the market rate is for a person. And I don't want to be a business owner where my only driving focus is making money. I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference in the lives of our people. And you are right. We have a really good life. And I want every single one of the people that are on our team to have that same really good life. And anytime somebody comes to us now, and we worked really hard, and you guys finally like came around and we started elevating salaries. Our retention rate now, we have our average tenure, I think, is like over 8 years. And that's not counting you and I that have been there for 23. So I'm really proud of that. And the thing about that is that I want to be proud of the business we have, the team that we have. And I want to make money doing that, because that is why we are in business. We are not a not-for-profit. We are a for-profit business, and profit is what allows us to do the things and to give our employees and have them have the life that they have. Mm-hmm. But we always tell them yes. When they come and say, I want to make more money, we say, yes, if we can upskill you. And we have a bunch of employees that have come in either as interns or junior techs or warehouse staff that are now in roles of security analyst, you know, warehouse managers, all sorts of things. So I'm proud of that. And I wouldn't change a thing about that at all, even though I know that if we had operated differently, you and I personally would have much, much more materially.
Oh no, I agree with you completely. Well, listen. Number
you
one,
you didn't let me answer the thing I think that I want people to take away.
You sucked out all of the air, and so you don't get to say it now. I say that to her all the time, Natalie. It drives her crazy. Go ahead. One
of the things that I started to understand, and trust me, it is so complex. I am just scratching the surface. One of the things I started to understand in doing my research, preparing, and wanting to be as ready as I could for this event was the connection between blockchain and AI. If you believe, and I went and bought a bunch more Bitcoin because of it. If you believe that Bitcoin, that blockchain is only about, can I go buy a Coke with Bitcoin? You've totally missed it. And that's kind of where I was before my research. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand the fact that artificial intelligence works on the blockchain with tokens. That is how it works. And tokens are blockchain, which is Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency. It's just one tiny piece of it. That's all. So that's the deeper dive that I'm now doing because of this. And I want people to take away from it. You know, crypto is like, I believe there's, you know, I think that's an area people really need to look at and start to understand that connection, because that is what's going to drive, I believe, the value of crypto, not whether or not you can buy groceries with it.
So being the listener, what I take from the two of you is, don't be afraid. Sit back and take your time and be thoughtful about the use of this new technology. You know, be smart with what it is that you're doing. Don't be afraid to go out and continue to search for information and learn and go beyond 30-second sound bites, but really do the deep dive, whether it's being a data nerd or being able to figure out blockchain or whatever. And And I think that's the separation of the people that are in the technology space, the people that are really willing to do the work like the two of you. Because I think you would agree, there are plenty of people out there, they'll get the very first level kind of data, and then they jump, and then they start doing things without really taking their time. And so I think that's a really great approach. The 375 people that are currently watching us, and always freaks out Angie because she can't see the dashboard and I can. Anyway, Natalie Suarez from Tampa, Florida.
I think you make up that number, because the only people I know who watch us are like my mom and 3 friends.
Well, you know what? You'll just never know. That's the greatest thing about my job. I'm Natalie Suarez, our friend from Tampa, Florida, ConnectWise. Thank you so much for coming to Pennsylvania and being part of the crew. Angie Singer-Keating, remote from Littlestown, Pennsylvania, at her mother's house, living in her camper because she's been thrown out of her real house and she's currently trying to figure out where she's going to go next. But in all seriousness, thank you so much. And Natalie, I hope it's not a really long time before we see you again. And
Me too.
It was great to hang out.
Yes, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Thank you. And educational.
I'm going to wrap this up, and then we can chat for a little while longer. Thank you.